Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast, the Spread the Love podcast. My name is Julieta and I'm going to be your host today. So, I am one of the leaders of a youth-led organization called Spread the Love, where we create encouraging letters, notes, and videos for children with special needs to read and enjoy. So, today we'll be interviewing Christine, a parent who received some letters from our team. So, Christine, can you please give us a little background on you and your family?
Sure. So my name is Christina Abernathy. I am a wife and a mom of 3. We have a daughter that is 18 and twin boys that are 9. Ethan and Braden are our twins. Ethan is our son who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. He also has other diagnoses as well. He does have apraxia of speech, and he has hypotonia and a few other medical diagnoses. I have a blog called Love, Hope, and Autism, where I share our journey, ultimately inspiring others to share their journey, and so that we can have open communication with each other, connect with other families, and inspire hope, to never give up and to let them know that they are not alone. So I love really just enjoying the community that we've built, around Ethan's story and our journey, and just connecting with other families. I work for Achieving True Self, which is an ABA provider, and I am a family support and community engagement specialist. So I connect with other families also impacted by autism. So it's really nice having that professional aspect to it, but also on a personal level that I can really connect with these families. I've really missed the community engagement part through the pandemic because so much of it has been canceled or is not happening with all the shutdowns and everything. So I can't wait to get back in public and see other families and connect and do things like that, because I really do enjoy my job. But for now, I'm working from home while also, homeschooling and virtual learning and things like that. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much. So the first question to just start things off, what were Ethan's and basically your family reactions to opening the letter and opening the letters and all of that?
With the letters, Ethan absolutely loved the letters. He loves getting mail. So he likes walking to the mailbox and getting the mail with me and then coming in. So if he receives mail, that's really exciting to him. So we helped him open the letters, and he was just so excited that somebody wrote a letter to him. So Ethan's not able to read yet, so I did read them to him. And, I always follow my finger along with the words so that he can see where I'm reading. And I think one of the people sent like a little sticker in there, and one of them drew him a picture. They knew that he enjoyed dinosaurs. So it was really amazing to see the connection through the letter, and that they knew a little bit about him and spoke about things that were really exciting to him. So he really, really enjoyed that. And, we're really grateful for that. So thank you.
No, yeah, it definitely happens. We have an amazing community with over 700 people at this point, and just each and every one of them is just creative in their own aspect. I've heard that a lot of people have even written poems to some kids, and just stickers and drawings. We're very creative. I will admit that.
I love that.
No,
we really, really enjoyed it. We really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm really glad. That's amazing to hear. So, yes. Okay, so the first thing, we already knew that you already shared that Ethan has autism. So, can you give us a little bit of a background of how your family basically knew about this diagnosis, and how did you cope with it in the first months of his life?
Sure. So we knew pretty much from the start with our twin boys that something was definitely different with Ethan. He was much smaller than Braden. Again, they're twins, but he was always just very delayed with everything, with the milestones and things like that. So we had a lot of concerns in the first year of his life, and we really weren't sure what was going on. We just knew that something was going on. And so we were really looking for guidance and some reassurance on, getting answers from our PCP. And from the time he was probably 3 months old up until he was a year, I voiced a lot of concerns to his PCP. I started taking down notes of my concerns. And to me, it was very obvious. I mean, granted, we had a daughter that was older, so I remember her developmental milestones and things like that, but Ethan's also a twin. So when you have that side-by-side comparison, to us, it was very, black and white. I mean, it was, you could see it right in front of you every single day, the differences, and especially the severity of the delays. Yes. And, when we kept bringing it up to the PCP, she just kept kind of shrugging it off, and that always really bothered me. So by the time he was a year, she just kept telling us that he was a chubby and lazy baby, that there was nothing wrong with him and that he was chubby and lazy, were her exact words.
That is, okay, so coming from like a professional, it's like sounds a bit like aggressive, to say the least.
Yeah, and I don't understand, chubby and lazy. First of all, there's many babies that are little, like I call them like little chunker bunkers, with the chubby thighs and the chubby little face. I mean, so many babies start out like that. But for her to call him lazy, for me, not being able to sit up, not being able to crawl, not being able to walk, not being able to do all these things at a year old, to me, I don't really know how a baby can be lazy, quote unquote lazy. To me, it was like, there must be a reason why he can't do these things. There must be a reason why my son can't crawl. There must be a reason why he's not moving around like his brother, right? Like, to me, it wasn't he was lazy. I think most kids want to go, they want to move. And he clearly seemed like he wanted to, but couldn't. And so that was my big concern, and a really big red flag is that I needed to find a different doctor who was going to listen to our concerns, because that was kind of like a punch in the gut and the heart at the same time, that we weren't getting answers and she wasn't taking us seriously. So we did switch PCPs. We just went to a different PCP in the same practice. And literally within that appointment, he listened to our concerns, took notes. He's apologized for her behavior, and also just sent us for more testing. He's like, you have to start getting physical therapy in your home and occupational therapy, and there's these services and people can help him, and he needs an MRI. And I was so flooded with so many emotions, because I thought, I've been telling her my concerns, since our boys were 3-4 months old. So for months and months up until he was a year. So now we're at like the 14-month mark. And our son, I didn't even know this existed, that our son could have been getting services in our home to help him crawl, to help him walk, to help him move his body, and to find out that he had hypotonia. And this is how we found out he was so chubby, because his muscle tone was so low, which is why he also wasn't moving. He needed help to crawl. He needed help to walk, and needed a gait trainer and a walker to help him walk. And I just thought, how sad, that I was a parent voicing my concerns and it was never taken seriously. And Ethan could have started services 7-8 months earlier, and could have been moving at that point, but she just wasn't taking us seriously and kept calling him chubby and lazy. So that's kind of how the journey started, was by a PCP not listening to our concerns. And so we started, so even before the autism diagnosis, had many services in home. So we had physical therapy, occupational therapy. And then even though he wasn't babbling or anything like that, I did kind of fight to get speech services early on, just to try to get that, motor planning and him to like get his mouth moving, and anything we could do to kind of help him project sounds or noises from his mouth, to see if that was going to be the way he was going to communicate, or did we need another form of communication for him, which ultimately we did end up getting a talker, which was great too, to help him communicate with us. So it was around the 2-year-old mark. We saw some more regression. So even though he was able to like move around more, there was other regression. And there were still a lot of global delays that we were seeing, still not hitting a lot of milestones. He was still not speaking at all by the time he was 3. And the first doctor we took him to told us that he was too happy to have autism, which was kind of the craziest thing. One of the craziest things I've ever heard.
It's kind of like a sword with like double-end sword. Like, it's like,
yes,
too happy. Oh, that's nice. But to have autism, okay, that's like
yeah.
Yeah.
I know many autistic children and adults who are very, very happy. So I don't see that as a bad thing, and nor do I think that we should dismiss a diagnosis because the person is happy. That's like saying all people with autism are unhappy, which is not true.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, so the first doctor was kind of like a miss. He didn't ask a lot of questions. He only saw us in the office for about a half hour. Um, kind of dismissed really everything that I was saying, and again, feeling very defeated and not listened to and not taken seriously. And for me, it wasn't that I knew he had autism. It was, I know something's going on. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm going to medical professionals to get some sort of answers and guidance so that we can help him more. We knew he needed supports. We just didn't know what that looked like. But without a diagnosis, you can't properly support the individual. So that was really important for me. It wasn't that we were searching for a diagnosis, but more so getting answers and getting him the help and support that he needed. And so we switched doctors again and found a different doctor who was highly recommended by people in the community and friends of ours. She was absolutely wonderful with him. She met us both for about an hour, hour and a half that first time. The next time she was with us for about 2 to 3 hours, and then met with us one more time. So, 3 different appointments, lots of testing later. So it took a couple months, to kind of, but I loved how thorough she was. I loved that she explained everything she tested him on. And ultimately he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. And it was one of those, like, I had lots of different emotions because there was a sense of relief, to be taken seriously and finally have an answer as to what is going on. And now we can finally move forward and help our son,
Yeah,
so
totally
of course there was the emotional aspect of, this is a lifelong diagnosis, but I also know that with the supports that he can have, that he is still our son and he is still amazing and he's still our sweet Bubba, which is his nickname, which is what we call him. And this diagnosis is not going to define him or change who he is, but that diagnosis does help us get the supports that he needs in order to become his best self. And that's ultimately what we did and what we've been doing since.
That's a great story. Well, with ups and downs, and I'm really sorry that you weren't taken seriously by literally medical professionals. But I'm glad that you were able to push through and just overall find like the answers that you needed. And
thank you. Me too.
That's amazing. So, okay, so another question that just basically to elaborate on that story. So like, yes, one of the questions is like how like the medical, what was the medical story and what was like the like bumps in the road. So you could say, what could you say to parents that are going through the same thing with like doctors not listening, but their gut tells them, no, this is like something that I know is true. What would you say?
I would honestly say definitely follow your gut, follow your heart. I think as parents, we know our children best. And, never dismiss that feeling that you have on the inside when something doesn't seem right. And if that first doctor or medical professional is not listening, you change doctors. You're permitted to do that. And, it really is on us to seek medical professionals who are going to listen to our concerns and take us seriously. And at the very least, look into something. Maybe at the very end, there is not a diagnosis, but there's still some sort of answer to the concerns that you have. And ultimately, you just want what's best for your kids. And if you don't have a medical professional who does that, then I definitely recommend finding someone who does. And I also, I'm a big note taker. So anything, that I was starting to notice, or things that like his brother did that he didn't do, or things that he did that his twin brother didn't do, sometimes it was flip-flopped. I started writing things down and just kind of taking notes, because it is kind of overwhelming trying to remember everything when you're in front of a doctor or another medical professional. So I always try to take notes, and especially if there's something extremely concerning, bring that topic up and ask, write down any questions that you might have for them. So not only the concerns that you have, but questions that you definitely want to ask them at that time, so that that you're leaving with the answers, that you were looking for.
Totally makes sense. Thank you so much for those words. Now, shifting to family. So we know that you just share that you have a big family. It's not just Ethan. So can you please elaborate on how the family dynamic was altered, if it was altered in any way with Ethan's diagnosis, and overall what's your family life like?
Sure. So ultimately, when the first the first few months, even year of the diagnosis, our boys were very young. So, I mean, our twins were 3. And so, I mean, our daughter Selena was, oh my gosh, what is she, 8 years older? She was what, maybe 10 or 11. So, I mean, she was fairly young, but she definitely understood more. And we would talk to her about it and what that meant and, you know, what autism was. And I mean, honestly, we were learning too. I did not blog or anything back then. I felt like there was so much learning that I was still doing about autism, about our community, about what it meant for our son and our family, because autistic individuals are all different. So, you know, I wanted to know what that was going to be like for our son and, you know, what that's going to be like for our family and how we can best come together to support him. So that was really, really important to us. So even though I was like journaling, I didn't share publicly and things like that yet. Just really like learning and growing as a mom, as a wife, as an advocate, as an ally for my son, you know. And so I really think, you know, that first year was so much learning and growing together. And ultimately, I think that it definitely has changed the dynamic of our family. And I would say 100% for the better. He really has made our family just kind of see things in a different light. And I view the world completely different now than I did, you know, 10 years ago before I had him. He kind of makes us take a step back and take in the small things around us that I think, you know, we're so busy and so caught up in life all the time. You know, we're very busy family, and he's made us kind of take that step back. And whether we wanted to or not, I like that he has done that for us and that we can see the joy in little things, you know. I mean, sometimes it's just a simple thing of just like he hugs a tree, you know, and says, "Love you" to a tree. And, you know, for me, it makes my heart explode because he sees the beauty in everything, you know, where we're just like, oh, it's a tree. Where he truly sees the beauty in everything. And I wish that I could see the world through his eyes and through him just for one day, to see what he sees and to see what he smells and hears and how his brain takes that all in. And I know a lot of that is overwhelming and overstimulating to him, but ultimately I would just love to see how he kind of sees our family and sees the world around him, because he has really taught us about slowing down and really taking that step back and enjoying the little things in life that I really think that we missed a lot, you know, before he was born. Just like a beautiful tree, you know, or stopping to smell a flower because, you know, he's very easily distracted and he wants to touch this or go smell this. And I definitely, I thank God for him, and he really just completed our family and made us stronger. And I think we've all grown so much with him and through him. And, you know, I ultimately think like we're learning from him every day. Like, I know that people are like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how you do what you do, and he's learning so much, but ultimately we're learning from him.
That is amazing. And yeah, just overall, just basically like ground like all the family back again and just take it all in. Yes, I do. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Now, shifting back to what you said earlier, you shared that you are in the work field, that you write, that you work. So what can you say that like what's the balance with family and work life that you experience, and overall has Ethan impacted your work in any way? And yeah, how you can take the lead here.
Sure. So that's a tough question because and I will try not to get emotional, because ultimately, like, my children will always come first before any job. You know, I always feel like, you know, you're replaceable at your job. As much as you might love your job and what you do for them and what they do for you, ultimately we are replaceable there, and my family will always come first. And I was in nursing school before I had the twins, and I was doing more classes while I was pregnant with them. I did decide to take a leave from school when Ethan was diagnosed, because it was really important to me to be an active part of the services that he was getting. I didn't want to be at school and him receiving services, you know, in home or wherever, and me not know what was he doing in therapy? What could I be doing to help him when therapists weren't in our home? So I did drop out of nursing school. I hate to say the words drop out, but I stopped nursing school, and I knew that school would be there, if and when I was ready to go back. And, just as time went on, again, it's a lifelong diagnosis. Autism doesn't go away, and services don't go away. I mean, ultimately, I hope that one day he's extremely independent and wouldn't need as many supports or maybe no supports. But ultimately, we're here to love him and help him through whatever struggles he may have, and know that he has the correct support. So I did take that leave from nursing school, and then I had a few different jobs in the past. Well, he's almost 10. So in the past 10 years, I've had 3 different jobs, just trying to find one that would be, great for me, but also for my family. And, it is hard because my heartstrings were always tugged, because I felt like I was pulled in 2 different directions all the time. So it was very difficult to hold like a typical job, a 9 to 5, right? Dropping them off at school, go there, because then if he needs picked up for school, or he had a bad day, or something else happened, ultimately it would be on me. My husband, fully supports our family, and we're like, I don't have to work. I do enjoy working though. And so that was really important to me to also, help financially and things like that. And I think it's good for us, for parents who do want to work, I think that's good for us, and fill our own cup a little bit. And so ultimately, I found a job that I love with all of my heart and am extremely passionate about, because I get to work with families that are also, having a child with autism. And it brings me so much joy to be able to bring back to the community that has helped us so much over the years as well. So this is definitely my dream job, and something that, like, I don't ever want to go back to nursing school, because in my heart, I just love helping other people, which is why I was in nursing school. And now through my writing, through my blog, through my work, I am still doing that. It just looks very different. So I still get to do advocacy through my work as well, which I'm sure we'll talk more about that too, like with the changing tables and things. But ultimately, I just want to help people. So even though my work has been impacted, and to be honest, it wasn't just because of Ethan. I mean, I'm a mom of 3, and with 3 children with very different needs, it ultimately was with all 3 of them. It's being a mom, period. It wasn't just because of autism. So I just want to make note of that, because it's hard, being a parent and trying to work, and especially if you have multiple children with different needs and things like that. So, but bottom line, we are very happy and very grateful, and I would do it all over again. It's okay that my life has shifted and my work has been impacted, because I'm so happy and feeling fulfilled by the work that I do get to do and the advocacy that I do. And that means more to me. And he is my driving force behind all of that.
That is amazing to hear. And yeah, touching, emotional. That's beautiful, beautiful. Now, yes, you also mentioned that you basically write, and you also shared that you even published a few books. So can you just go ahead and brag a little about your accomplishments? We would love to hear it.
Sure. So I love to write. I've been writing since I was a kid. I actually used to write a lot of poetry when I was younger. I still do a little bit, but I love to write and blog. Ultimately, I love to share my heart. I love to share my passion. I love to let other people that they're not alone. So whether that's talking about mental health struggles, whether that's autism, whether it's anxiety, maybe it's just parenthood in general, maybe it's being a woman, any of these things. I love to write and share my heart with people, and, really just connect. And my goal is, even if just one person a day, says, that resonated with me, or thank you so much, I felt less alone because of your words today, or you inspired hope in my family today, or your son inspired my son, like all of that matters to me. And I love connecting with other people. And more of the writing, I was part of 2 different collaborations. One of them was more autism based, so that it was called You Are Not Alone, Stories, Resources, and Hope from Autism Moms is one of the collaborations I was part of. Most of the co-authors are from here in Pittsburgh, but there are a few others outside of the Pittsburgh area. It was a really nice book. It has, each of us shared a story of some time in our journey with our children. And we also jam-packed it with a bunch of resources. So any therapy or other resource that has helped us, IEP tips, all these different things. We just shared a bunch of resources in there. So after you read, each of us shared an individual story. You then at the end, have all this resource section to help families. Maybe they're just starting out. Maybe you're 20 years in, but there's something else you didn't try or something else you didn't look into. So it was really important to us to share a bunch of resources that have helped all of us because it might help someone else. And then the other collaboration I was part of was a Made to Overcome series. So it's a series of books, and the one that I was part of was a chronic illness one because I do have a heart condition and I have a pacemaker. So I shared my story and my journey with that. So I think my title was Hope Heals the Heart. So I have a chapter in that book as well. So again, just sharing different stories. Everybody has a different walk of life, and everybody has a background and things to share. So I've been really fortunate to share a few of those stories and have them published.
That is amazing. I really love the title, just helping the heart to heal. It's just amazing.
Thank you.
That's so cute. Now, okay, so moving just a little bit back, and just what are like some challenges that you've had to face in public with Ethan or with other kids or with overall like the world? Has there been any challenges that besides like the medical stuff like in daily life, and what can the common individual do to help solve and just overall be more accepting?
I think there's many challenges that come along the way. As far as in public, it is hard. You get a lot of stares, a lot of different comments. I've heard lots of different things over the years, and I think it's important that we have conversations with our kids too, because sometimes these comments are coming out of children's mouths, and that's something that's learned or that has been seen or heard before. And so that does kind of break my heart. So I think it's really important that we talk to our children about disabilities, about race and different ethnic backgrounds and things like that in culture, because without those conversations, things that are different or people who are different, they're going to stare and they're going to question because they don't know. And I think there's a right way to do it and a not so nice way to do it. It's okay to say, why does he have headphones on, as opposed to, you look stupid with those headphones on, right? Like those are 2 totally different things. And there was a boy at the park that said, "Hey, mister, I can't talk," to my son. And so that could have been very different had we had conversation, instead of, "Hey, mister, I can't talk," in a very mean tone. Asking Braden, like, "Does your brother talk?" "Oh, he doesn't." "Well, can I still say hi to him? Is there a way that I can communicate with him?" Right? So having these conversations with our kids, I think, is just so important. We have very open conversations in our household about people with disabilities, and not just autism, all different sorts of disabilities. We have a lot of books, because I love, having resources of books, children's books, because they explain it so well. You can read the story, and then that opens up the conversation to have with your kiddos. So I love books about inclusion and diversity and accessibility and disabilities. Like, that's really big in our home. And we've talked about sexuality, and some people think that's crazy because our kids are only 9, but they need to know what that means, that 2 men might get married or 2 women might get married, and my boys have already heard those conversations, so I just think, especially in the disability community, like our children, our loved ones, they want to be loved and accepted just like everybody else. Whether they're a wheelchair user or they use a talker to communicate, or whether they use sign language to communicate, or maybe they look a little bit different, they want to know that they are loved and accepted and included. And so I could go on and on about stories that have like crushed our hearts, you know, as his parents and things that we have heard. But ultimately, you know, having a community that is inclusive and having events, like I'd love to see more inclusive events, not just for the autistic community, but all disabilities, to have them more inclusive and some more of those like more sensory friendly, because not just autistic people, but there are many people with different abilities that have these sensory, you know, sensitivities to loud sounds and smells and textures and things like that. So to have these more sensory friendly type of things and more inclusive events. Another huge thing that impacts Ethan's life and our life as a family, which I advocate for a lot in actually working with state legislators, trying to get a bill passed here in Pennsylvania, is adult size changing tables. So that's not autism specific. It's because Ethan does have other medical diagnoses, and this is a struggle that he has, even at almost 10 years old. And this is something that could be lifelong for him. So this may or may not get better as he gets older. And so we don't know. Regardless, this is what we're dealing with now. And it impacts not just our son, but thousands and thousands of people across our country. And the use and the need for adult size changing tables is huge. So what happens is when Ethan has an accident in public, we are either left to make a horrible choice to lay down a beach towel and change him on the floor, a restroom floor, which is terrible. I literally, like, it crushes my soul, like every time I have had to do it.
Yeah.
Or your other option is to go in a parking lot with people walking by. Also horrible. Would you want to use the restroom in the middle of a parking lot? Probably not. And then ultimately, the last decision is you leave and go home. So our whole, you know, not only Ethan would have to stay soiled until we get home, our entire family has to leave and go home. So if we're at a museum or if we're at the zoo and we're out somewhere and there's nowhere to clean him, do you try to find somewhere where you can discreetly, you know, without exposing him, or do you go home?
Yes, total. Yes.
So this is something that's very, very important to me. And so I am part of the Changing Spaces campaign. And so we advocate for powered, height adjustable adult size changing tables. And so these tables, with a push of a button, so they are powered operated, go up and down. So this is extremely important for people who are caring for a loved one in a wheelchair, so that they can transfer safely over. The table lowers down, you can transfer safely over, you raise it up for the caregiver to change them properly, and then lower it back down and transfer them safely. The problem with a fixed height table, which a table that doesn't move, is that you're needing to lift your loved one up onto the table.
Yes.
Right. And so even though Ethan is mobile, and he's able to stand and walk and things like that, like I would not be able to lift him onto like a, you know, a 3 or 4 foot high table. And so that's why we specifically advocate for these type of tables. And a lot of states are working with legislation. Myself and a few friends and the Changing Spaces Pennsylvania campaign here, we are working with legislators to try to get a bill passed here in Pennsylvania. And I've also been in contact with the ICC, who are working on a federal level. So I've been able to sit in on a few of their meetings, and hopefully we'll be able to testify at the hearing about the importance of these. And so if we can get changes made in the code, in like international code, that is like the ultimate goal, so that people, and we know that the future of our loved ones will have these tables.
That is amazing. Wow, thank you so. I was not aware of this challenge that many families face. So thank you so much for just bringing awareness to that and just sharing your journey. And I'm definitely going to research more about it. And I really hope that the bill is passed in Pennsylvania, and even hopefully, like you said, in the federal level, because yes, you're definitely right. Just adult changing spaces are necessary. So thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
Yes. And okay, so we're a bit running out of time. So just to literally the last thing. So a couple of days ago, March 21st, was the Down Syndrome Day. And then this Friday, April 2nd, is going to be the Autism Acceptance Day. So please, what are your thoughts on that? And like, are you planning on doing something special that day? What can we expect?
Sure. So, World Autism Day or Autism Acceptance Day, for me, ultimately, I mean, it's kind of World Autism Day in our house every day.
Yeah,
So for
that's
me,
that.
it's another day to bring awareness, because I think without awareness, we can't have acceptance, because people who don't live this life, are learning from us and from our children and from our loved ones. So for me, it's, still spreading our story and sharing our journey, and having Ethan, speak as much as he can and communicate as much as he can, through my platform as well, just about what that means for him, and accepting all individuals as they are. So whether that's autistic, Black, white, Asian, we should love everyone. And so ultimately, that's what I want, my page to be. It's autism based, but that we want to bring inclusion and acceptance to everyone. And so I hope, for Down Syndrome Day, I shared, the logo for that, and was tagging and donating, and because we're all here to support and love one another. So whatever your story is, whatever your diagnosis is, just be kind and be accepting and loving.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think we've reached the end of the podcast. So please go ahead and just shout yourself out, any platforms that you want where we can find you and things like that. Go ahead.
Okay, so again, I am Christina Abernathy, and my blog is called Love, Hope, and Autism. So I am on Love, Hope, and Autism on Facebook and Instagram as well. And also Changing Spaces Pennsylvania. We also have a Changing Spaces campaign for the United States. So you can go to www.changingspacescampaign.org to learn more about that. If you are in the state of Pennsylvania, I'd be more than happy to add you to the group to learn more and to advocate with us here for change in Pennsylvania. But I think there's like 22, 23 states that are working now. And I think that's all of the platforms.
Thank you so much. And for us, remember to follow us in our social media. We're mostly active on Instagram, which is Spread the Love with a period between the R and the E. So please follow us and just remember to listen to our podcast and show some love to all the families that we're sharing. So thank you so much for tuning into the podcast, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.